the classic game of Monopoly where you buy and monopolize the market until you are the ultimate winner, aka the only one that's not bankrupt. In today's video, we're going to go through strategies for Monopoly as well as pros and cons of these strategies and when to implement them for best use. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, strategy number one is the most basic, and so I'll be quick about it. Essentially, it's buy whatever property you land on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No matter what, as long as you can pay for it. There's no point at the beginning of the game in saving your money because people are still accumulating properties, and it's not until they have houses that it's really risky to actually spend all your money. So buy all the houses you can at the very beginning. Now the pro of this is that you will have a lot of properties, and so you'll have that much better of an advantage over other players. And a con of this though is you might run out of money. You know, that's literally the point of the game, is to get bankrupt last. But you have to invest in properties to be able to stay alive throughout the game. Not to mention, the more properties you have, the more safe places you have to land. And that rolls into my second strategy, which is spend every dime you have. This is a lot of money, and a lot of these properties are only $100. Spend that $100 and get the property. If you have the opportunity to buy houses, as soon as you can, buy those houses. A pro of this is you're going to have more properties, more houses, and more hotels to trap other players. And because you've developed so quickly, they're going to have a hard time keeping up with the cost of landing on your spaces. So when should you use this? This is a strategy used at the very beginning of the game. You can use it throughout the game, but it's especially powerful near the beginning when no one else has the property or development like you do. Next strategy is to take advantage of the poor. At one point, you're going to have a couple of players that, if you have the most money and they don't have very much, say you notice they only have a couple of fives or something like that, well, instead of buying the property out front when you land on it, let it go to auction. That way, instead of paying $100, you're only paying $25. And this strategy is a huge pro when you can save money. A con though is you may be surprised at how much money they do put on it, and so you might actually pay more than what the value of the property is. When should you use this? This strategy should only be used if other players are poor. So if they don't have a lot of money and the money that you think they have is less than the value of the property, then do it. It's a great way to get property for cheaper than you would have otherwise. The next strategy, which I wasn't familiar with, was don't buy the railroads. The likelihood of you landing on all 4 railroads and being able to do anything with them is pretty slim. So it's actually better just ignore them. If you land on them, pay someone else for the rent, but don't pay $200 for the property. It's just not worth it. As for utilities, there's 2 utilities, and really the value that you get, the likelihood of someone landing on these 2 is pretty slim. So it would be better just for you to skip these as well. You can save 150, you can save 150 here if you just skip the utilities. So the pros of not paying for railroads or utility properties is that you have extra money to spend on properties that will actually get you a decent income. The con though is if you don't purchase it, then it goes to auction and the other players may get it for a cheap price, and you may land on it later and it might hurt a little. But honestly, the hurt that you get from paying for it up front is usually a little bit more than if you pay for it with little bits of rent throughout the game. When should you use this strategy? I'd use it throughout the game, the entire time. These are the properties that usually last on the board the longest, and there's no reason to waste your time on it, so use this strategy throughout the entire game. The next strategy is one that I like to do quite a bit, and that is to hang out in jail. If you're sent to jail or you're unlucky enough to get that chance, or community chest card that tells you to go to jail. Well, the thing is, you can do everything, like buy properties, buy houses, sell properties, collect rent while you're in jail. What you can't do in jail is accidentally land on someone else's property. The pro of this is you are safe to play the game from the comfort of your jail cell. The con though is if it's early in the game, you might miss out on properties that other players are picking up because you were stuck in jail. When should you use this strategy? Use this later in the game when almost or all of the properties have already been purchased and are being developed on. That way it's more of a value that you hang out in jail. You have 3 turns where you don't have to pay rent to anybody. The next strategy is a little bit different, and I actually haven't tried this strategy before, but it's creating a housing shortage. So if you put a house on 4 houses on all of your properties as quickly as possible, and then don't upgrade to the hotels, so you're just getting rid of all the houses in the bank. What this does is create a housing shortage, and without houses, people can't develop or can't make properties, they can't be more, really can't grow or become a bigger threat because you already have all of the houses. Now the trick with this one though is if a person has houses, they can sell them back to the bank at half the price that they purchased them for, which at one point might be valuable enough so that they can finally upgrade to those hotels. But this is a strategy. I think the reason I haven't used this strategy is because this is a lot of houses. Like, this takes a long time for you to be able to accomplish that strategy. It's definitely a long-term strategy and one that you should play when you know the game is going to be a long game. So pros of this strategy: other players can't develop hotels while you're doing so. The cons of this strategy, however, is that you have to buy a lot of houses and you can't trade them in for a hotel. If you trade them in for a hotel, you totally defeat the purpose of, and take a look at how much work this would be to do this strategy. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 properties that you need to have control over of all the same color, and then you need to have the capital and ability to build 4 houses on all of them in hopes that no one else builds houses, and it's likely that someone else will have a house. That's actually like a good thing because then you don't have to worry about buying as many houses, but just keep that in mind. It does take a lot of work to do this strategy, which is definitely a con. And when should you do this strategy? This is a long game strategy, something that you should start implementing as soon as you get your first full set of properties. So as a summary, the first strategy that I mentioned is buy every property that you land on. That way you can monopolize as many properties as possible and leverage them in the future of the game. Spend all of your money. There's no reason to save your money at the beginning of the game when there are plenty of properties still left to be purchased. There aren't any houses up. That's the perfect time to go all in. And don't worry if you have to pay rent $1 for rent. That's relatively easy. It's paid for by the next time someone lands on one of those properties that you decided to purchase instead of saving money. Next one is to take advantage of the poor. If you see that the other players you're playing with don't have the cost of the property that you landed on, then take advantage of that situation and send it to auction so that you only have to pay $50 instead of $100. Instead of getting out of jail by paying that $50 fee immediately, hang out in jail. This is a good strategy for the end of the game so that you can do all of the gathering rent without paying it when you land on other properties, but you will eventually have to get out of jail, so you're gonna have to fess up sometime. Last strategy, which is a little bit more difficult, but I think if you do it, if it's implemented, it will probably be really valuable for you, is to create housing shortage. And to do that, don't upgrade any of your properties to hotels. People can't put hotels on properties without first having 4 houses on it. So if they can't buy houses, they can't get hotels, and thus they're a smaller threat. Hopefully this video was helpful for you, and if it was, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have recommendations for strategies, include them in the comments below. I'd love to see what your strategies are, maybe try them out myself, and I'm sure the other members of the Monopoly community would as well. Thanks again for watching this video, and enjoy playing Monopoly.